My name is Wolfgang Hall, and I have a background in logistics and supply chain management. And with me is Balaji.
Hi, I'm Balaji Kannan. My background is with manufacturing and inventory and warehouse management. And today we are here to talk to you about the complexities of inventory management and how we can manage them very effectively using open ERP solutions.
Yeah, and as you probably have guessed, as open source integrators, we get involved in a lot of projects that actually deal with inventory management, with manufacturing. A lot of our customers have to streamline their processes and related to inventory and related to manufacturing. And so we thought it would be a great opportunity to share a little bit about the knowledge that we gained over the years. Why don't you start with some of the typical problems that you see on projects?
Of course. Most of our customers, like Wolfgang was pointing on, you were pointing on, Wolfgang, is that they deal with procurement, storage, manufacturing, and distribution of products and services. So these products entail a considerable amount of costs in through the supply chain, in procurement, in storing, and in distribution. So the idea is to use leverage on the best practices and implement them using the open ERP solutions so that the inventory costs can be reduced. Mm-hmm. So how effectively can we do that with the existing systems? What kind of research techniques, operations research techniques and mechanisms can we put in play so that we can reduce this cost is the key to better inventory management.
And this falls actually in line with our typical process that we use to analyze a problem to see what actually needs to be done for any customer, the analysis, and then that flows into the actual optimization of these processes. And then we want to automate these processes and transition to a full production system that actually covers all the needs that are necessary for a highly functional warehouse inventory system.
Yeah, in the analysis phase, what we typically do is try to understand the products that the customer procures or manufactures and see what kind of a mechanism is needed to manage those products. For example, there are certain types of products that are key to their business operations. Those are the main products. So in order to make those products, produce those products, they need to procure a number of raw material. And then the classification of the raw material comes into picture. So how do we classify those raw materials? Do we need to track them down to the penny, or are we happy with keeping them in bins and saying, oh, the bin has run down of quantity, so we just refill them again? So two extremes of inventory management, where we count every single unit by a unit, or we group them all together and we don't care about the quantities left in there. The important element to inventory counting is not just the inventory counts alone, but the value the inventory is going to add. If it sits in storage, the cost incurred along with that storage. So what is the optimal quantity that we need to maintain of these different products in hand so that we can run our business uninterrupted? That becomes a very key element of inventory management.
Yeah, and you mentioned also warehouse locations. And I think one of the key factors of a functioning inventory system is that you have locations set up properly and that you know exactly how much inventory you have at each one of those locations. How do you optimize the locations so that the actual transition is streamlined? That's a concept that we use with every customer as well.
That is true. And again, just improvising on that, if you look at each of our customers in many different industries, they have their own procurement practices. Some do centralized purchasing, some do distributed purchasing, some get deliveries into a single warehouse and distribute in-house. Others get it just in time at the location where it is needed. So the techniques could range from a very traditional manufacturing where goods are purchased, stocked, and manufactured, versus you get a just-in-time supply from your suppliers right before you need the product. So variances can happen. It's a spectrum. on which a solution can be found. And no two customers are alike, no two solutions are alike. So what is optimal changes every time. So we have helped so many of our customers find the best mix of what they should procure, what they should keep on order, and so on. So we hope you find our webinar really useful.
So there is a lot more to learn about inventory management and warehouse management in general. And of course, it ties together with manufacturing. And you will see there are some additional webinars that we have on manufacturing and other topics. So please join us and come to our website at opensourceintegrators.com and look for some other webinars. Yeah,
Thank you.
Hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.